Frederick is now with Catherine, vacationing at the Grand Hotel in Stresa, with no immediate plan for his or their future. My name is Tricia Sulpizio. I'm your host for Tea and Bedtime Stories. In this episode, we'll continue reading Ernest Hemingway's novel, A Farewell to Arms. Last time we read and discussed chapter 34 of book 4, and now I'll continue with chapter 35. After the reading, I'll follow up with quick facts and my impressions. So let's begin chapter 35 of book 4. Catherine went along the lake to the little hotel to see Ferguson, and I sat in the bar and read the papers. There were comfortable leather chairs in the bar, and I sat in one of them and read until the barman came in. The army had not stood at the Tagliamento. They were falling back to the Piave. I remembered the Piave. The railroad crossed it near Sandona, going up to the front. It was deep and slow there and quite narrow. Down below there were mosquito marshes and canals. There were some lovely villas. Once before the war, going up to Cortina d'Ampezzo, I had gone along it for several hours in the hills. Up there it looked like a trout stream, flowing swiftly with shallow stretches and pools under the shadow of the rocks. The road turned off it from Cadore. I wondered how the army that was up there would come down. The barman came in. "Count Greffy was asking for you," he said. "Who?" "Count Greffy. You remember the old man who was here when you were here before?" "Is he here?" "Yes, he's here with his niece. I told him you were here. He wants you to play billiards." "Where is he?" "He's taking a walk." "How is he?" "He's younger than ever. He drank 3 champagne cocktails last night before dinner." "How's his billiard game?" "Good. He beat me. When I told him you were here, he was very pleased. There's nobody here for him to play with." Count Greffy was a 94-year-old. He had been a contemporary of Metternich and was an old man with white hair and mustache and beautiful manners. He had been in the diplomatic service of both Austria and Italy, and his birthday parties were the great social event of Milan. He was living to be 100 years old and played a smoothly fluent game of billiards that contrasted with his own 94-year-old brittleness. I had met him when I had been at Stresa once before, out of season, and while we played billiards, we drank champagne. I thought it was a splendid custom, and he gave me 15 points in 100 and beat me. "Why didn't you tell me he was here?" "I forgot it. Who else is here?" "No one you know. There are only 6 people altogether. What are you doing now?" "Nothing." "Come on out fishing." "I could come for an hour." "Come on, bring the trolling line." The barman put on a coat and we went out. We went down and got a boat, and I rowed while the barman sat in the stern, and I let out the line with a spinner and a heavy sinker on one end to troll for lake trout. We rowed along the shore, the barman holding the line with his hand and giving it occasional jerks forward. Stresa looked very deserted from the lake. There were the long rows of bare trees, the big hotels, and the closed villas. I rowed across to Isola Bella and went close to the walls where the water deepened sharply, and you saw the rock wall slanting down in the clear water, and then up and along the fisherman's island. The sun was under a cloud, and the water was dark and smooth and very cold. We did not have a strike, though we saw some circles in the water from rising fish. I rowed up opposite the fisherman's island where there were boats drawn up and men were mending nets. "Should we get a drink?" "All right." I brought the boat up on the stone pier, and the barman pulled in the line, coiling it on the bottom of the boat and hooking the spinner on the edge of the gunwale. I stepped out and tied the boat. We went on into a little cafe and sat at a bare wooden table and ordered vermouth. "Are you tired from rowing?" "No." "I'll row back," he said. "I like to row." "Maybe if you hold the line, it will change the luck." All right. Tell me how goes the war. Rotten. I don't have to go. I'm too old, like Count Gruffy. Maybe you'll have to go yet. Next year they'll call my class, but I won't go. What will you do? Get out of the country? I wouldn't go to war. I was at war once in Abyssinia. Nix. Why did you go? I don't know. I was a fool. Have another vermouth? All right. The barman rowed back. We trolled up the lake beyond Stresa and then down not far from the shore. I held the taut of the line and felt the faint pulsing of the spinner revolving while I looked at the dark November water of the lake and the deserted shore. The barman rowed with the long strokes, and on the forward thrust of the boat the line throbbed. Once I had a strike, the line hardened suddenly and jerked back. I pulled and felt the live weight of the trout, and then the line throbbed again. I'd missed him. Did he feel big? Pretty big. Once when I was out trolling alone, I had the line in my teeth, and one struck and nearly took my mouth out. The best way is to have it over your leg, I said. Then you feel it and don't lose your teeth. I put my hand in the water. It was very cold. We were almost opposite the hotel now. I have to go inside, the barman said, to be there for 11 o'clock. L'heure de cocktail. All right. I pulled in the line and wrapped it on a stick notched at each end. The barman put the boat in a little slip in the stone wall and locked it with a chain and padlock. Anytime you want it, he said, I'll give you the key. Thanks. We went up to the hotel and the bar. I did not want another drink so early in the morning, so I went up to our room. The maid was just finishing doing the room, and Catherine was not yet back. I lay down on the bed and tried to keep from thinking. When Catherine came back, it was all right again. Ferguson was downstairs. She said she was coming to lunch. I knew you wouldn't mind, Catherine said. No, I said. What's the matter, darling? I don't know. I know. You haven't anything to do. All you have is me, and I go away. That's true. I'm sorry, darling. It must be a dreadful feeling to have nothing at all suddenly. My life used to be full of everything, I said. Now, if you aren't with me, I have nothing in the world. But I'll be with you. I was only gone for 2 hours. Isn't there anything you can do? I went fishing with the barman. Wasn't it fun? Yes. Don't think about me when I'm not here. That's the way I worked at the front, but there was something to do then. Othello with his occupation gone, she teased. Othello was a black man, I said. Besides, I'm not jealous. I'm just so in love with you that there isn't anything else. Will you be a good boy and be nice to Ferguson? I'm always nice to Ferguson unless she curses me. Be nice to her. Think how much we have, and she hasn't anything. I don't think she wants what we have. You don't know that much, darling, for such a wise boy. I'll be nice to her. I know you will. You're sweet. She won't stay afterward, will she? No, I'll get rid of her. And then we'll come up here? Of course. What do you think I want to do? We went downstairs to have lunch with Ferguson. She was very impressed by the hotel and the splendor of the dining room. We had a good lunch with a couple of bottles of white Capri. Count Graffy came into the dining room and bowed to us. His niece, who looked a little like my grandmother, was with him. I told Catherine and Ferguson about him, and Ferguson was very impressed. The hotel was very big and grand and empty, but the food was good. The wine was very pleasant, and finally the wine made us all feel very well. Catherine had no need to feel any better. She was very happy. Ferguson became quite cheerful. I felt very well myself. After lunch, Ferguson went back to her hotel. She was going to lie down for a while after lunch, she said. Along late in the afternoon, someone knocked on our door. Who is it? The Count Gruffy wishes to know if you will play billiards with him. I looked at my watch. I had taken it off. It was under the pillow. Do you have to go, my darling? Catherine whispered. I think I'd better. The watch was 4:15. Out loud, I said, "Tell the Count, Graffy. I will be in the billiard room at 5:00. At 4:45, I kissed Catherine goodbye and went to the bathroom to dress. Knotting my tie and looking in the glass, I looked strange to myself in civilian clothes. I must remember to buy some new shirts and socks. "Will you be away a long time?" Catherine asked. She looked lovely in the bed. "Would you hand me the brush?" I watched her brushing her hair, holding her head so the weight of her hair all came to one side. It was dark outside, and the light over the head of the bed shone on her hair and on her neck and shoulders. I went over and kissed her and held her hand with the brush, and her head sunk back on the pillow. I kissed her neck and shoulders. I felt faint with loving her so much. "I don't want to go away. I don't want you to go away." "I won't go then." "Yes, go. It's only for a little while, and then you'll come back." "We'll have dinner up here. Hurry and come back." I found the Count Graffy in the billiard room. He was practicing strokes, looking very fragile under the light that came down above the billiard table. On a card table a little way beyond the light was a silver icing bucket with the necks and corks of 2 champagne bottles showing above the ice. The Count Graffy straightened up when I came toward the table and walked toward me. He put out his hand. "It is such a great pleasure that you are here. You were very kind to come play with me." "It was very nice of you to ask me." "Are you quite well? They told me you were wounded on the Isonzo. I hope you are well again." "I am very well. Have you been well?" "Oh, I am always well, but I am getting old. I detect signs of age now." "I can't believe it." "Yes. Do you want to know one? It is easier for me to talk Italian. I discipline myself, but I find when I am tired that it is so much easier to talk Italian. So I know I must be getting old." "We could talk Italian. I am a little tired, too." "Oh, but when you are tired, it will be easier for you to talk English. American." "Yes, American. You will please talk American. It is a delightful language. I hardly ever see Americans. You must miss them." "One misses one's countrymen, and especially one's countrywomen. I know that experience. Should we play, or are you too tired?" "Oh, I'm not really tired. I said that for a joke. What handicap will you give me?" "Have you been playing very much?" "None at all." "You play very well. 10 points in 100? You flatter me. 15? That would be fine, but you will beat me." "Should we play for a stake? You always wish to play for a stake." "I think we'd better." "All right. I will give you 18 points, and we will play for a franc a point." He played a lovely game of billiards, and with the handicap, I was only 4 ahead at 50. Count Graffy pushed a button on the wall to ring for the barman. "Open 1 bottle, please," he said, then to me, "We will take a little stimulant." The wine was icy cold and very dry and good. "Should we talk Italian? Would you mind very much? It is my great weakness now." We went on playing, sipping the wine between shots, speaking in Italian, but talking little, concentrated on the game. Count Graffy made his 100th point, and with the handicap I was only at 94. He smiled and patted me on the shoulder. "Now we will drink the other bottle, and you will tell me about the war." He waited for me to sit down. "About anything else," I said. "You don't want to talk about it? Good. What have you been reading?" "Nothing," I said. "I'm afraid I'm very dull." "No, but you should read. What is there written in wartime?" "There is Les Filles by a Frenchman, Barbus. There is Mr. Britling Sees Through It." "No, he doesn't." "What?" "He doesn't see through it. Those books were at the hospital." "Then you have been reading?" "Yes, but nothing any good." "I thought Mr. Britling a very good study of the English middle-class soul." "I don't know about the soul. Poor boy, we none of us know about the soul. Are you croyant? Croyant. At night, Count Gruffy smiled and turned the glass with his fingers. I had expected to become more devout as I grow older, but somehow I haven't, he said. It's a great pity. Would you like to live after death? I asked and instantly felt a fool to mention death, but he did not mind the word. It would depend on the life. This life is very pleasant. I would like to live forever, he smiled. I very nearly have. We were sitting in the deep leather chairs and the champagne and the ice buckets and our glasses on the table between us. If you ever live to be as old as I am, you will find many things strange. You never seem old. It is the body that is old. Sometimes I am afraid I will break off a finger as one breaks a stick of chalk. And the spirit is no older and not much wiser. You are wise? No. That is the great fallacy, the wisdom of old men. They do not grow wise, they grow careful. Perhaps that is wisdom. It is a very unattractive wisdom. What do you value most? Someone I love. With me it's the same. That is not wisdom. Do you value your life? Yes. So do I, because it is all I have. And to give birthday parties, he laughed. You are probably wiser than I am. You do not give birthday parties. We both drank the wine. What do you think of the war really? I asked. I think it is stupid. Who will win it? Italy? Why? They are a younger nation. Do younger nations always win wars? They are apt to for a time. Then what happens? They become older nations. You said you were not wise. Dear boy, that is not wisdom, that is cynicism. It sounds very wise to me. It's not particularly. I could quote you the examples on the other side. It is not, but it is not bad. Have we finished the champagne? Almost. Should we drink some more? Then I must dress. Perhaps we'd better not now. You are sure you don't want more? Yes, he stood up. I hope you will be very fortunate and very happy and very, very healthy. Thank you, and I hope you will live forever. Thank you, I have. And if you ever become devout, pray for me if I am dead. I'm asking several of my friends to do that. I had expected to become devout myself, but it has not come. I thought he smiled sadly, but I could not tell. He was so old and his face was very wrinkled, so that a smile used so many lines that all the gradations were lost. I might become very devout, I said. Anyway, I will pray for you. I had always expected to become devout. All my family died very devout, but somehow it does not come. It is too early. Maybe it is too late. Perhaps I have outlived my religious feelings. My own comes only at night. Then, too, you are in love. You do not forget. That is a religious feeling. You believe so? Of course. He took a step toward the table. You were very kind to play. It was a great pleasure. We will walk up the stairs together. That concludes the reading of chapter 35. Now I'll follow up with some quick facts and my impressions. The Tagliamento, if you remember, is the river that served as his escape from the military police that were trying to kill him. It had carried him to safety. It's a braided river in northeast Italy, and it flows, if you remember, from the Alps to the Adriatic Sea, and it meets the body somewhere in between Trieste and Venice. The Piave is the river that's just west of there. It's also in northeast Italy, and it also runs from the Alps to the Adriatic Sea, but it the mouth opens closer to Venice. I guess in 1909 it was the scene of a battle during the Napoleonic Wars. And in June of 1918, it becomes the scene of the final Austrian offensive on the Italian front before the war ends. It's weird that he was talking about the November waters, and yet they haven't in the story chronology, they haven't had the final battle yet in Piave, so it doesn't make sense. But anyway, when he talks about Sandona, it's Sandona di Piave, which is a small city, a suburb of Venice, which is also, again, in northern Italy. And it's one of the historic, main towns of that area of the eastern Veneto territory. And it was almost destroyed during World War I, but thankfully it was totally reconstructed in the early 20s, so you can go see some pieces of history, but it is reconstructed history, so for whatever it's worth, it still looks beautiful. When he was talking about the Cortina d'Ampezzo, that's referring to a ski resort, obviously in the Dolomite super ski area, right near the Alps, so same northern Italy region. In 1956, interestingly, it was the site of the Olympic Games, Winter Olympic Games, in Cortina. And it's about, I guess, 180 kilometers north of Venice. Cadore is the name for the whole region where Sandona sits, the region of Veneto, and it's in the northernmost part of the province that borders Austria. And it's a collection of small villages, mostly mountainous villages that are supported by that river. When they were talking about fishing, they weren't really fishing. A spinner is a type of lure. It's like metal that's kinked metal, so it reflects a lot of light, and you tie it to a line. And when he was talking about the sinker, it's probably a weight on the line. It keeps the bait close to the bottom, and trolling is just like you're moving and dragging a line. You're not really fishing. And so it just makes it look like the dead bait is swimming. Some people think that trolling is cheating. And in some places it's not allowed. In America, anyway. The Isola Bella is one of the islands in the middle of Lake Maggiore. And it's about 400 meters from Stresa. So it's not very far to row out there. It's not a very big island. It's only 400 meters wide and 300 meters long. And there's a palace, a garden, and a small fishing village on top of that island. But Abyssinia, when he was talking about the war in Abyssinia, he was probably referring to the first war between Italy and Ethiopia that took place between 1895 and 1896. Nobody uses that term anymore, Abyssinia, but it was the common name for the region that encompasses modern-day Ethiopia and Eritrea. And it was Abyssinia was kind of the synonym for Ethiopia until the Ethiopian Empire was abolished in 1974. It had been standing for a very long time, since 1270. Anyway, l'heure du cocktail is just French for cocktail hour, when the barman said he had to get back. Catherine, it's interesting that he calls Frederick Othello. She's referring to the Greek tragedy, The Moor of Venice, a Shakespearean play, I think done around 1603. It was set in Venice and Cyprus, and it was Othello was a military commander who was manipulated into thinking that his wife was unfaithful, and it's a tragic love story, and they both die, and it's really stupid and sad. And it's weird that she refers to him as Othello, but that's what that story's about. Les Filles. I think I mentioned it in book 1. I don't know if they mentioned it in the book, I can't remember, or if it just came up in my research. But Les Filles is, it's translated in English, Under Fire, the Story of a Squad, by Henri Barbusse, and it's a World War I novel. It's the first novel of its kind where it's first person talking about what's happening in the trenches of the war, and it was super popular, I guess, at that time. And it was said to be a big influence on Hemingway. Apparently, he loved that book, but it explores themes of like camaraderie, trauma, and survival during wartime. When the Count was talking about the book, Mr. Bitling sees through it. That was actually a misspeak. The book is titled Mr. Britling Sees It Through. It was a best-selling novel by H.G. Wells, published in 1916, and it likewise explores themes of the war, but it's more about the human relationships. It's this middle-class family. The youngest son, I think, goes off to war and writes letters about his experience to his father, and it just shows how things like in their lives changed from before to after the war. The word, when he asked if he was a croyant, it means believer. The Count was basically asking Henry if he had any faith in God or not. And my impression, so that's enough with the quick facts. My impressions is it's kind of weird that he only refers to the barmen as barmen when he's out fishing with them, and apparently knows him well enough to send him tobacco and all that stuff, but doesn't bother to give him a name or learn his name. And it's just dumb because he spends like an entire page and a half name dropping all these dinky little towns where he visited and all this other stuff, but doesn't give the barman a name, not even for our benefit. I don't know, it's weird. I don't know what that means. But Fred being kind of clingy and Catherine calling Frederick Othello is also really strange, considering that story, how, she was accusing him of being jealous. I don't know if that is meant to reflect Catherine's, deep-seated fears about him, that if he becomes jealous, he'll become violent, and because she doesn't know this man at all, that she's now carrying his child. And so I think she's testing him to figure out who he is, or maybe, I don't know, it's just the author's choice to throw that in from his own personal life, because Hemingway was said to be extremely jealous and insecure of his partners, especially to his later two wives. It said he was psychologically and physically abusive with them. They had screaming matches and fights, especially his last wife, and I don't know, a lot of suspicion, false accusations, blah, blah, blah. And so maybe that reference in the text was meant to be an insight into Catherine's true feelings or fears, or it was just a piece of Ernest putting his story into the text. But if we remember back on his seemingly misplaced monologue from the previous chapter about how he says life tries to kill you if it can't break you, maybe that veiled reference is supposed to reinforce that subtextual narrative. I don't know. Anyway, Fred pointing out the difference between himself and Othello, using skin tone as his qualifier, like, I'm not Othello because he's black and I'm not black, I think illuminates more of his insecurities. He's making a weak flex, like trying to emphasize his superiority by any means, which is really strange because Othello was a commander and Frederick is an ambulance driver. And so, and a disgraced ambulance driver at that. So there's little to no comparison whatsoever to that character. I think Catherine was being euphemistic when she made that comparison to Frederick not having a job, to Othello. I don't know. It's kind of weird, but it makes Frederick look really weak. What in American culture we call a weak flex. It's when little kids try to show their biceps to prove that they're stronger than their friends, like my big muscles. And they're like these puny little arms. It's a weak flex. And figuratively, adults will do the same thing. They'll try to make some stupid little comment to flex on somebody else and try to make themselves look superior, but it's such a stupid attempt to make themselves look more important that they end up looking worse, if that makes any sense. I don't know. That was just a weak flex. Anyway, the Count appears in the story like an apparition of Frederick's older self. He comes out of nowhere and doesn't really fit. I don't know. I don't know. This story's weird, but I think he's a man without a grounding faith. And I think in a weird way, it's trying to show Frederick who he would be if he fails to acquire a grounding faith for himself, right? And that if you've lived any kind of life, you know that requires us to ask those deeper questions of ourselves. And we have to develop our value system and the faith that accompanies it over time through self-reflection and sacrifice. And he doesn't seem to have those capabilities. I mean, and also their criticism of the belief that age equals wisdom, right? He's saying just because you get older, it doesn't mean you get any smarter or any wiser. It's almost feels like a veiled rationalization for both men's failure to put in the effort required to think about or care about things outside of ourselves. I mean, I don't know. If you have no faith, it's usually a clear sign that you don't care about anything but seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. And in a way, even Frederick's love for Catherine is self-centered. I mean, she acts like a doormat, his sidekick, and right now, because he's a fugitive, she's representing his only real hope for any kind of a future, which is why he thinks he's so madly in love with her. But these two people clearly don't know anything about each other, and I doubt if things were to work out and they somehow escaped the mess they found themselves in, that they would ever live happily ever after. I just don't see that happening. But maybe I'm too cynical. Sorry, I'm probably too old for this story. Anyway, that's all I have for chapter 35 of book 4. In the next episode, we'll pick up where we left off, and we'll read chapter 36 of A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. Please join me for more tea and bedtime stories. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks for listening.